instill in me, you know, a love for where I came from. And I don't know, I guess it took losing her to appreciate it, to wonder why she thought it was so beautiful, and to kind of, you know, pay more attention and realize the surprises that are all over the desert landscape. So it's a celebration for her. It's part of who I am. It's a part of something special that I get that other people don't get. It makes me feel a little bit more who I'm supposed to be. And like, I love learning, for example. I love discovering new things, and I love applying myself, and I think art is kind of a reflection of your time and your patience and effort, and I don't know, I want to put something out there that lasts, and something I can be proud of. I think that's one of the biggest reasons I teach, too.
Hello, Maricopa. It's me, Sergeant Hal Kuger. I'm here with my friend Maria Johnson, the Crisis Director from Horizon Health and Wellness here in Pinal County. Thank you so much for joining me. We're here today to talk about a new program called 988. Maria, what is 988?
988, this is a 3-digit crisis line number. It is access to the National Crisis Line, which is currently 1-800-273-TALK. This is an additional number, 3-digit number, easy to remember to access mental health support, where you can call, speak with a trained crisis professional if you're experiencing a mental health emergency, if there's emotional distress, substance use issues. It also has veteran services available, and it'll prompt you to access that. So this is a new 3-digit, easy-to-remember number to access that support.
988, I think I could remember that. Does it replace 911?
No, it's essentially parallel to 911. 911, if there is in fact a life-threatening emergency or concern, still utilized, but this is in addition to it where there's a mental health issue and that you want to have a mental health professional support. Also where it can be assessed and determined if a mobile team needs to be called out to your home to assist you and assess further need.
Great. And are they available 24/7?
Available 24/7, and it's free and confidential.
Perfect, perfect. And there are different ways to reach 988, right?
Yes, 988, or you can text 988, and there is also the online chat feature, which is 988lifeline.org.
Wonderful. Maria, thank you so much for joining us today. The 988 number is a brand new number that is going to save lives and help you and your friends and family through crisis. Thank you for joining us today. Maria, thank you for coming and being here and joining us, and we'll catch you later. Thank you.
Luis Villa, your communications coordinator for the City of Maricopa. I'm joined with Nathan Steele, the director of our Economic Development Department, and we're here at Sonoran Creek Marketplace, where the options here are getting a little sweeter with the opening of Crumble Cookie here in the City of Maricopa. So thank you for joining us, Nathan. Tell us what goes into the back end. Some of our people might not know how to get one of these popular franchises here in our community.
Yeah, well, all of this is years in the making, frankly, and not just with Crumble, but when you look at all of the tenants that are coming to Sonoran Creek and across the entire city, all of it is years in the making that starts with the landowners, the property owners, the developers, as well as all of the city planners and economic development professionals getting together to make these deals work, make these packages work. When it comes to individual tenants like Crumble, like Mod, like Jimmy John's, like ATI, and all the others here in Sonoran Creek, they're looking at the overall growth of the city. They love seeing the new homes. They love seeing the apartments. They want that diversity of housing because they know that's what's going to produce the workforce housing that they need. Everyone knows always
Thank you for being here this evening, and welcome to the regular City Council meeting of April 18th, 2023. At this time, we'll call the meeting to order, and I'd like to invite up Pastor Luke Panter from Grace Fellowship Church to give the invocation, and after which we'll have Councilmember Marsh give us the pledge, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you can, please rise.
Thank you. Lord God, our Father in heaven, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we come to you, Lord, today, thankful for your presence here. Lord, we thank you, Father, for the way that you deal with us as your creatures. Lord, I pray, Lord, that tonight you give this city council wisdom. Lord, I pray that you give your servants here wisdom as they consider the weighty issues of governing our community. Lord, give them endurance on the days when they seriously doubt whether or not they're making a difference or moving the needle in the right direction. Lord, give them strength. Give them strength of character and fortitude as they seek to carry out their duties. Lord, as they serve the citizens here with integrity. Father, give them patience with one another and community members who may be here tonight to voice concerns or maybe even to share grievances. Lord, that they may be slow to speak, quick to listen, that they may be not hasty in deciding matters of our community, but they would not hesitate, Father, to act as their consciences allow in order to preserve peace and prosperity for all of our citizens. God, I ask that tonight you give them success in carrying out the business of governing the city of Maricopa, inasmuch as their decisions reflect your character and your will. And finally, Father, I ask your divine protection over our fire, our EMT, our police officers. Father, for those who are on duty this evening, protect them as they serve to protect us. And I ask it in Christ's name. Amen.
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God.
Thank you, Pastor Panter and Councilmember Marsh. That'll take us to roll call.
Councilmember Gettle.
Present.
Councilmember Learman.
Here.
Councilmember Manfredi.
Here.
Councilmember Marsh.
Here.
Councilmember Wade.
Here.
Vice Mayor Vidiello. Here. Mayor Smith.
Here.
Madam Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Vanessa. That'll take us to proclamations, and so I'll come down for our one proclamation. I found out I could just flip it without turning it. So I'd like to invite up for this proclamation Jim DeVenzia and his guests. Whereas, for the past 42 years since its inception in 1981, National Crime Victims' Rights Week has challenged the nation to remove barriers to achieving justice for all victims of crime. And whereas, it is important to remember that crime doesn't discriminate and crime victims aren't statistics. They are real people, young and old, family members, friends, and neighbors. And whereas in 2023, we continue to celebrate the accomplishment of the victims' rights movement and reflect on how far we have come in helping crime victims find not only support, recovery, and justice, but also a sense of hope, safety, and peace for their future. Whereas this year's theme, Survivor Voices, Elevate, Engage, Affect Change, calls upon communities to amplify the voices of survivors and commit to creating an environment where survivors have the assurances that they will be heard, believed, and supported. And whereas, to accomplish this noble goal, we must ensure that all crime victims and survivors are treated with dignity and respect, recognized as vital participants within our justice systems, and offered services that help provide them with a sense of security and healing. And whereas America has joined together annually for the past 42 years to recognize the needs and rights of crime victims and survivors during National Crime Victims' Rights Week each April. Now I, therefore, Nancy Smith, the mayor of the city of Maricopa do hereby proclaim the week of April 23rd to 29th, 2023 as National Crime Victims' Rights Week, and reaffirm the city of Maricopa's commitments to all victims of crime this week and throughout the year. We also express our gratitude and appreciation for victim services providers and criminal justice professionals who are committed to having every voice heard. And this is Jim Venezia from the Maricopa Police Department. I present this to you.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council. I only have a short time today, so I'm gonna be succinct. We have a couple guests here today from a few agencies that work here in the City of Maricopa that assist victims of crime. And typically, when you think of victims of crime, domestic violence, maybe assaults, maybe the physical property crimes, but as Maricopa is aging and aging, we're going to hear from Jennifer, who's going to tell us about some of the crimes against senior citizens that we can't overlook. It was back in 1981, the National Crime Victims' Rights Week started. Arizona was a little late to the party. Arizona came to it in 1990. There was a voter initiative. And in 1991, the following year, came up with the Arizona Victims' Bill of Rights. Right? It's in the Arizona Constitution, Article 2, Section 2.1. It's fascinating what is in here and what the rights are for victims. The day of suck it up, get over it, it happens to everybody else, it's over. It's over. The day of looking down or demeaning victims, well, if you didn't do this, you didn't do that, it's over. There's so many rights that victims have. If they understood what those rights are, many of them are to be involved completely, thoroughly, from the time of arrest to the time of conviction and afterwards, if they choose. If they choose. If they waive their rights and don't want to be informed, the process is still going to continue. But Arizona has done a noble job in terms of assuring rights for victims. My associates here do their own little special contribution for the citizens here in the City of Maricopa, so I'll let them speak about what they do, but thank you.
$3.1 billion. That is the amount of money older Americans lost in 2022 due to fraud. Elder fraud is a predatory crime that targets seniors in our community because of their age or their vulnerability. Many of us are seniors. Many of us have family members that are seniors. This is a crime that affects us all. Elder fraud, unfortunately, affects seniors and family members as well. It can cause seniors to get embarrassed about being a victim. It can cause seniors to get isolated or even depressed. It is very heartbreaking to look into the eyes of a senior after learning that they lost all their money because of a scam or fraud. So I don't want this to happen anymore, so I created my company, Voice Against Fraud, where I teach seniors and their families how to avoid becoming victims of scams. My name is Jennifer Pitt. Please respond or please reach out to me at my website, voiceagainstfraud.com, so that you can learn how to give our seniors their own voice against fraud.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Behrens with the Hope Women's Center, but Tessa from Face of a Survivor could not be here tonight and talk about a voice. She has a voice because she was a survivor herself. She spreads awareness, she supports and with resources on domestic violence, anti-bullying, sexual assault, and suicide awareness. Tessa is a thriving survivor of abuse herself and is determined to help others do the same. Face of a Survivor empowers others to use their voice for change, reaching communities, schools, and victim service agencies, making a difference in so many lives. Faces of a Survivor wants you to know that you are not alone and that we believe you. I work at the Hope Women's Center. I'm the center manager, and we engage, encourage, and equip any woman or teenage girl in any life difficult situation. We have 6 centers in Arizona. Our Maricopa Center opened in 2019. Since we've opened, we've seen 175 women, and not just seen them, but we've been able to engage with them, have community with them, have classes and mentoring with them, and keep them as a support community together. And they have voices too. And for free, we have their voices have been just amazing to hear their stories, and that they reach out in a safe place, and that their stories are heard. Our services are free, and please reach out to us at hopewomencenter.org if you are a woman or a teenage girl in any life difficult situation. We believe you.
Hi, I'm Tiffany Mensah. I'm the Executive Director of Doves Network, which stands to support the teens that are exposed to domestic violence and sexual assault. We meet with them through 3 pathways: intervention, prevention, and empowerment. Through our intervention way, we meet with them weekly to help them heal from the exposure, and we also help teach them on what healthy relationships look like, and also counter abuse measures, while also coming alongside and supporting their parents in their healing journey. You can contact us at dovesnetwork.org if you need more information.
Let's give them a hand.
Thank you. And that timing was pretty good too, by the way, wasn't it? For people who know me, you would say yes. I brought copies of the Arizona Victims Bill of Rights. Feel free, pick one up and see exactly what the rights are here in the state of Arizona. And we also do have a video that was done. Monica helped us out with the video done several weeks ago that will be put on social media within the week or so in commemoration of the National Crime Victims' Rights Weeks. And thank you for your support.
All right, that'll take us to the report from the mayor and council. And before we start that, Representative Seaman, I know you're out in the audience. Please stand. This is our representative for our district, one of 2. And I appreciate him coming. He took a tour of the city of Maricopa, learned all our good and bad stuff, and he can help us. So that's a really good thing. And he spoke with our council and staff and answered questions, and we've had a lovely visit with him. So we're thankful that you're here, sir. So at this time, we'll go to our council. We'll start with Councilmember Wade.
I've got it there, man.
Sorry.
Thank you very much. It's so nice to see so many of you here this evening. I really appreciate it. And always, as you know, I always encourage people to come to city council meeting because this is where you can have those discussions that you want to have sometimes. So thank you very much for coming. It was a busy week. A couple of things that were really kind of cool, though. The Heritage Society opened the museum up for the new introduction of Black history activities or individuals who support activities. We had about 100 people come through the museum on Saturday. It was a beautiful day with scouts, and several of the churches had displays that were there as well. But what was really nice about it is, of course, the camaraderie of all the groups that were there together to try to support that effort. And if you get an opportunity to go by the museum, please do so and take a look at the exhibit. And if you have any information in reference to the history of Maricopa as it relates to African Americans, please reach out so that we can put that information in the museum as well. Coming up is going to be, and this is coming up, something that's coming up is the Copa Cultural Night Market, which is going to be held on Saturday, starting at 4 p.m. runs to 10 o'clock. And this is a repeat of, or the second year of an event that we held last year, and it was one of the most attended activities in Maricopa history, the inaugural program. It was very well attended. There were different cultures that represented it through music, song, dance, food, and it really turned out to be great. The thing that I enjoyed about it was watching the children. The children were really enjoying themselves and really having a good time. And you know, when kids have a good time, parents tend to relax as well. So it was a really good event activity. So thank you, Ms. Mayor. I hope to see a lot of you out Saturday. That's Saturday the 21st, starting at 4 p.m. That's when you can drive in, and there'll be all kinds of different activities for you to participate in. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Wade. Councilmember Marsh?
I've had a busy couple weeks. On April 7th, Councilmember Gettle and I met with Cox Communications, District Manager Sheena Connor, and a construction manager. They've installed over 270,000 feet of fiber optic cable in our neighborhoods already, and their target is to install millions of feet of cable by the time they're done. I think it's really a boon to have Cox Communications bring additional bandwidth to Maricopa. Their residential build-out is going to be complete by the end of 2024. The first 16,000 homes will be online as early as June of 23. On the 10th of April, I attended the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. They discussed the 574-unit complex of 8 buildings going in just north of Desert Cedars, south of the tracks. Also, the new courthouse that's being built behind City Hall. On April 11th, I'm on the board of the Pinal County Water Augmentation Authority. We met to discuss cloud seeding experiment. It's been successful in Texas and Colorado. It adds 2.5% to the rainfall out of a given cloud. If you get a plane up in there, they fly through and spread silver iodide crystals, and it causes more rain. I'm not really 100% sold on it, but it'll be a fun experiment. On the 13th, I had a meeting with MEDA President Christian Price. I'm impressed with his energy, strategies, and goals going forward. I think he's in the right gig. And on the evening of the 13th, the city hosted the senior prom in Copper Sky. And I don't know if many of you are old enough to attend a senior prom, but we danced our hearts out that night. And the music was great. It was from the 60s and 70s. And I hope we do it again next year. There were over 100 people attending this time, and it was catered by Roots Eatery. And it was very, very well attended. It was fun. The first senior prom in Maricopa. And that's about it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Marsh. Councilmember Manfredi? No, Amber didn't have anything. Yeah, Vice Mayor Vidiello?
Yeah, I just want to tell you, it was very well attended. We could have probably had about 150 people, but unfortunately they cut it off at 85 at the senior prom. I want to thank staff, Brenda Campbell, Brandolyn Hughes, and everybody else who contribute to this wonderful event. It's the first, and I hope not the last, of senior proms, all sorts of proms. You guys did a great job. You couldn't have pulled it off any better. The gym looked fantastic. The music was excellent. The sound system needs a little work, but we can figure that one out. But thank you, staff, for putting off the first and not the last, I hope, senior prom. Thank you, staff.
Thank you very much. All right, so just a couple things. I first want to tell you how hard the city staff is working in regards to keeping the city of Maricopa in front of our state executive leadership in all different ways. So this week we had 2 meetings, and they were both very productive. And let me just tell you a little bit about them. Today we met with the State Land Department Commissioner. She's a new commissioner, only been in place for 1 month. And we have 3 parcels of state land within the city of Maricopa that we wanted to talk and understand how do we move those into development. And so we worked through the process to understand that, and hopefully in the future it'll benefit the city of Maricopa by having development on those 3 pieces of state land. So a very good meeting, very informative, and also just establishing face-to-face contact with these leaders is really critical and important. The second is we had a meeting with the governor's staff, gave them a tour of Maricopa, same as we did for Representative Seaman, and we talked a lot about legislation, local control. In fact, I said, is there any way you can do an executive bill or an executive order to stop legislation from interfering with local control? And they laughed, of course. They have to laugh because there's no way to do that. But I just thought I'd give it a try. But we talked a lot about local control so that the governor's office understands how important that is and how different bills impact different cities in different ways, and in some cases not at all when it affects another city badly. So a lot of thought needs to be given to those types of bills that interfere with local control. So we made sure they understood that. And of course, we have to bring up State Route 347 and help them understand what we have in the works, what is moving along fine, what can move along better, and so they took all the notes on that as well. And so a great meeting, again, establishing face-to-face contact with the governor's office. Any entity at the state level is really important. As you know, we've also had meetings with DPS and ADOT. So Katie and staff are doing a phenomenal job keeping us in front of those very, very important people making important decisions. And then lastly, I'm surprised Councilmember Manfredi didn't bring it up. We had our budget finance meeting, and we don't have the final results yet, but we feel pretty positive that we're going to find another way to lower property tax again. So keep looking for the details on that. I was ecstatic about it. I'm just surprised you didn't bring it up. Oh, wow, okay. There's no way he's going to jinx it. No way at all. So that's your report from the mayor and council. At this time, I'll turn it over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. We do have a brief presentation, but I'd like to defer it till we get to item 8.4, if that's okay.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, city manager. That brings us to the call to the public. At this time, for the call to the public, I have 2 speaker cards, and I'll call them up, and you each have 3 minutes to speak. And then after that, if anyone else from the public would like to approach the podium and speak to the council, you're perfectly welcome to do that with the same 3-minute limit. Let me go ahead and read to you because this is important. The procedures to follow if you address the council are: council requests that you express your concerns in 3 minutes or less and refrain from any personal attacks or derogatory statements about any city employee, a fellow citizen, or anyone else, whether in the audience or not. The mayor will limit discussion whenever they deem such an action appropriate to the proper conduct of the meeting. At the conclusion of an open call to the public, individual members to the council may respond to criticism made by those who have addressed the council, and may ask staff to review a matter or may ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. However, members of the council shall not discuss and take legal action on any matter during an open call to the public unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion and legal action. So the first person I'll call up is Barry McCain.
Good evening, Mayor, City Councilman, staff, and friends. My name is Barry McCain from Maserati Street. It's been a stressful time this week at the Capitol, but I'm thankful for my dad because my dad was Special Forces Commander with General Patton during World War II. And he, when I was 10, even said, if you're 18 and there's a draft, you'll be drafted by the Army. And I was. But then he told me, he said, well, you're my only son now. So I got admirals in my family. So I ended up on the Kitty Hawk with a race riot. It's gone crazy. But I can tell you, I was thankful to my dad because he told me how important leadership is. The important things about leadership is to be effective and efficient. Also said about being responsible and accountable, but he also talked about prudent judgment. Well, yeah, I ended up on the Kitty Hawk with a race ride because of family. And then everything from that point, just like my dad said, responsibility and accountability, extremely important. But we have to have prudent judgment. My prudent judgment, everything worked up to Top Gun for me, just like my dad said, until I had to dodge a A4 Blue Angel and decide I don't need to be Blue Angel anymore. At 2 Machs, that's not good. Spiraling. But what's happened to the Capitol here, I don't know what to say. The political polarization is really hurting us, but when I come here, I think about 2 things very important. Spirited discourse is really important to leadership. As an activist, it means a lot to me. But I want to thank our Planning and Zoning Commission because they're the exact reason why it's so important, and I want to thank you for that. Plus, when we talk about the budget, you talk about leadership. I'm so amazed sitting in that meeting and thankful for this staff, all the thoughtfulness they've put into it, and we're safe because of that, because knowledge is power. And I thank you again, staff, for that. It just makes my whole week, month, and session. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCain. Next person I'd like to call up is Raymond. And Raymond, I'm not going to try your last name. You'll have to share it with us. Okay, perfect.
My name is Raymond Overdyke. I live at 45694. Oh, excuse me. Welcome, Mayor and Council and staff. Raymond Overdyke, 45694 West Meadows, Maricopa. I want to talk about handicap van. I've been going to the senior center, meet and greet, and some trips and stuff. I went on a trip a few months back, and I had my wife's walker, which is smaller than mine, and was able to put it in the back door between the seat and the door. We went about a month ago, we went to Mesa Market, and I have a bigger one, and it wouldn't fit in the back. They had to pack everybody in the van, and then it went between 2 seats. And staff over there has mentioned that they've tried to talk to the city about getting a handicap van, because there's been people with wheelchairs that they had to turn down trips. And had there been 2 people with walkers, one would have stayed behind. Because I tried putting this in the front seat in front of me, it didn't fit. The only place it did fit was between the 2 seats. So I'd like to see what can be done about getting some handicap vehicles. Because I mean, if I was in a wheelchair, I don't want to go to like I said, they had a couple that they had to turn down. And yeah, and there is no place for a wheelchair, and only one walker. So thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yes. City Manager, is there someone that will connect with him? Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, would anyone else from the public like to approach the podium? Looks like Henry Wade does, as a citizen.
Thank you, Mayor, because that's exactly how I come as a citizen. What I'm about to say will probably anger some of you, will probably ignite some of you. You may agree, you may not agree, but just as Mr. McCain said, leadership is important. Black Lives Matter. We've had 2 incidents over the last couple of days, one at least, where a young black child, 16 years old, was almost killed because of the color of his skin. His assailant even made the statement, "I saw a black man standing on my porch
and I got scared. So I shot through my door, and then I shot him again when he was on the ground. The kid was at the wrong address. He was going out to get his twin brothers and bring them home. He was at Terrace, and he should have been at Drive. A couple of days ago, a young lady was murdered because her and her friends in a vehicle turned on the wrong way on the street. She was not African American, but she was killed in the process. What I need as citizens from the city of Maricopa is just what we have, but we need to give some to some other people. We're the third safest city in the state of Arizona. We have an excellent police department. We have an outstanding fire department. We have an excellent community services department. We have an excellent city council and city manager. So we serve as an example to the rest of the world that we can get along and that we need to get along, whether you're African American, Hispanic, Asian, Caucasian. We need to show the rest of the world how to get along, and we're doing it, and we need to keep doing it. And if there's anger or animosity in your heart, save it for your house only. Don't try to make it penetrate mine, because I'm going to teach my kids about love and respect and appreciate decency. So thank you very much for indulging me. If you got a little angry and you want to talk to me. I'm ready to talk to you. But thank you very much for listening to me as a citizen.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. Would anyone else like to approach the podium and speak to the council? All right, seeing none, I'll close the call to the public. That'll move us to the consent agenda. At this time, we have 7.1 through 7.7. I have 0 speaker cards on any of the consent agenda items. Council members, do you have any questions, concerns, issues that you'd like to have addressed? Yes, Councilmember Gettle.
Vidiello asked me a question that stumped me, and that question was, who are the 3 people that we hire? And fire is an important part of the question. And the civil magistrate, our presiding judge, is one of those that we have direct stewardship with. So I have some unresolved concerns with item 7.6 regarding ordinance number 2324. So I'd like just to make a motion that we table that item to give me a little bit more time to ask the right questions to the right people. The ordinance as proposed will redline a significant portion of that standing ordinance, and I just wanted to make sure that Judge McCarville and his staff had time to significantly review those changes and are okay with that. I've been reassured that everything's been above board, but I just have not done my own homework with Judge McCarville. So that's my motion, that we go ahead and table that particular item for a later agenda.
Okay.
Give me that time that I would like to have to do my research.
Thank you. Council members, are there any other questions? Yes, City Manager? City Attorney?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Gettle, these changes actually come from the City Court. They're the ones who requested them.
From the State Board?
From the City Court.
From the City Court, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
This is a court enhancement fee of $20 that they're adding to certain cases as defined in the changes to the code.
And it's only about the $20 fee?
It's only about the $20 fee. My understanding is that we've always had it in our code, but there wasn't a specific fee, and that could go up and down depending on the type of case it was. I think court staff thought it'd be easier just to set it at $20 and be done with it, and then it'd be a consistent amount charged in the various cases. That's my understanding of it.
That was my interpretation as well in discussing or reviewing this item, that it was only about the fee. And I know that there was a question in terms of, is it a fair fee? And I believe, Mrs. Brown, that you have some information on that?
Yeah, we looked at other jurisdictions. So every other jurisdiction in Pinal County also charges the same $20 fee. We looked at some in Maricopa County too, and in Pima County, and they fluctuated a little bit. There were some that were all the way up to $30, I think was the highest we saw in Surprise. Oro Valley and Chandler were at $25, and Buckeye was the only one that we saw a little lower, which was a $10. But consistently, the majority of them were all at $20.
Councilman Guerrero, did you have a specific question, or did you interpret it the same way, and would you still like to keep your motion?
Yeah, my motion still stands, and I do agree with the $20. That's not my issue. There are a couple of other items in this proposed ordinance that I am concerned about. One of them is the reporting process for that judge, as well as what those fees are being allotted to fund. And again, I would really like to hear Judge McCarville's side of it, if that is indeed his intent by the change in this ordinance, or if there's something that maybe was overlooked. And I apologize that I just haven't taken the time to do my homework before tonight, but I would appreciate that extra time to ask those questions specifically to Judge and to his staff.
Very good. Any additional questions? I do have a motion to table this item. Do I have a second? Second. Seconded by Vice Mayor Vidiello. Any additional questions, conversation? All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you,
So 7.6 is tabled. That will give us consent agenda items 7.1 through 7.5 and 7.7. Are there any questions or comments? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Councilmember Wade, seconded by Councilmember Gatto. Any additional questions, comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Thank you very much. That takes us to the regular agenda item. Our first item up is 8.1, which is a presentation 23-07, and I believe Wes Moss is going to come forward. I do have 2 speaker cards, but we'll watch your presentation first, as it may answer the questions.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members, I'm Wes Moss. I'm with the City of Maricopa, the Civilian Services Manager. And today I'll be conducting a presentation on temporary sign code amendments that we've been working on, and I'll go ahead and get it started. The current sign code, or temporary sign code, 18.115.120. The purpose of this is to establish comprehensive provisions that will eliminate confusing, distracting, and unsafe signs, establish reasonable regulations to promote economic vitality for local organizations and services, and enhance the visual environment of the City of Maricopa. The intent of these provisions is to maximize establishment identification, minimize visual clutter, and maintain a high quality of signs throughout the City of Maricopa. We held a work session and gathered some feedback. Some of these topics that we've discussed and we have addressed in the temporary sign code. We have to come in compliance with all current case law with temporary signage. Temporary signs. With this, we mandated that temporary signs to have the owner contact information on the signs, increased number of directional signage, and this went from 6 to 10 signs, 1 per turning radius, and drafted clearer language for the actual setback of the signage from the right-of-way. We also addressed that signs may be displayed 1 hour prior and 1 hour after the event is held. And then we also added illustration to make it a little clearer and easier to determine where not to place a sign within a site visibility triangle. It's short and ready to go. So
Thank you very much. As I indicated, I do have 2 speaker cards. The first person we'll call up is Andrea Jackson.
Make sure you can hear me. Can you hear me? Yeah. First of all, I wanted to thank you for hearing our concerns. We appreciate that the city wants to keep everything looking nice, and I completely agree that signs should not be on sidewalks. So I get where you were coming from. That being said, I still have concerns regarding sign placement in regards to other signs. We read the updated proposal, and I think it says now that they can be 10 feet apart from, or your sign can be 10 feet from someone else's instead of 20 feet. That can be a challenge. If you're at the front of Rancho where you first pull in, it's pretty easy. But if you're trying to direct people into Homestead where there are just a couple little places to turn, I'd be driving up and down Honeycutt or Smith Inc. trying to find a place to put my sign that isn't too close to someone else's, which isn't really a safe thing for me to be doing. So once again, I appreciate what you have done, the changes that you have proposed, but I do think some consideration needs to go into that. The signs are only there temporarily. If I put my sign out for a 10 o'clock open house and someone comes for a 12 o'clock open house and puts it 5 feet away from mine, is my sign going to be taken? I can tell you the majority of the people who come from outside of Maricopa have no clue what the sign code says. I see open houses in my neighborhood with signs blatantly in the wrong place, and I try and stop and tell them what the rules are. I've had one guy laugh at me over it, but that's the biggest thing. How are you going to determine whose sign was there first? I generally do my open houses in the morning when it's cool. Some people like to do it in the afternoon because more people are out and about. That would be my concern. So thank you.
Thank you. Second speaker card is Liz Recchia. Don't know if I said that correctly.
Thank you, and yes, you pronounced it correctly. Thank you. My name is
wonderful.
Liz. My name is Liz Recchia. I'm Government Affairs Director for the We Serve Association of Realtors, and I would like to thank you and staff for reading and considering our comments from last fall. It's greatly appreciated from all of us. We did have a couple of additional comments having to do with the new draft proposed ordinance. One is going to exactly what Andrea just mentioned, which was the minimal spacing. So one of the greatest concerns of our members was, how do you know whose sign was out at 10 o'clock in the morning, whose was out at noon, and you come out 4, and there's several signs in the same area, who gets cited? The other question is, we've had other cities with similar types of concerns, and the way they articulated it was the distance between that particular entity's sign. So company ABC, how far apart were their signs? And every company or entity, that's how the distance was measured, rather than trying to figure out who got there first. So my question is that part of what the thinking is? And if so, that is not clear. Either way, we would like a little bit of clarification on what the intent is and how that enforcement action will be taken. Additionally, on page 2, table 18.115.120, there's a table, and the very first item on it has to do with the maximum number of signs per parcel. And there's an asterisk on number 1 of that actually refers back to the language that also has the asterisk at the bottom of that chart, that table. And it is not clear from the first read, or even sometimes the second or third read, that the language having to do with right-of-way attaches to that particular item. So our suggestion is you take that verbiage from the bottom with the asterisk, and instead of an asterisk at all, move it up to the item that it actually is involved with, whether you put it off to the side in an additional box, or if you actually have that line directly underneath the verbiage that's currently there, so it's contained within the same box, the same language for the same item. That would make things much clearer for us. And then additionally, we'd like to thank you because we realized that that graphic on the visual triangle was incorporated. That is a fantastic help to everyone. And we would like to encourage you to adopt other graphics within this. In other cities where they have done that, it really cuts down on the amount of misunderstanding and conflict between the public and the city, and no one has to think twice about what that is. The measurements, the color, whatever the size is of that particular object, that is all the type of things that people want. And when it comes to placement, particularly on right-of-way, as you know, that has been a sort of a contentious conversation. Having an illustration with the street, the curb, the sidewalk, and where those measurements are relative to the language, it just clarifies everything. So that is our suggestion. Thank you once again for your considerations.
Thank you very much for those comments. So, Council, I'll open up to you for questions and comments.
Mayor, I had a concern about
Yes, Councilmember Learman.
the 1 hour before and the 1 hour after. When I think about an event and sometimes the preparation or the cleanup, I want the resolution to be reasonable, and I'm wondering if 1 hour isn't a reasonable amount of time for someone to be able to prepare an event, clean up an event, grab the sign. So I would like to propose that that would be a longer period of time. I would like to propose like 3 hours to give that party, that person, or group of people enough time to grab that sign at the end of an event.
Thank you. Council, just on that topic alone, do you have any thoughts that would help staff in understanding if a change is made here? Yes, Councilmember Wade?
The broker myself, I understand exactly what the agents and the brokers are going through when they're placing their signs. 3 hours is a little long. I'd like to maybe see that cut in half, or maybe an hour and a half. It gives and typically when the person is delivering signs or when picking up signs, that is the task at hand. They've taken care of the other tasks as far as setting up the place and what have you. So an extra half hour, I certainly could see that, but 3 hours would be a little long.
Thank you. Any other comments on that topic? Yes, Councilmember Gettle.
Madam Mayor, would the A-frames and other signage that are used by our religious organizations fall under this use as well? And I know we don't judge by content, that's not the intent of the ordinance, but some of our religious communities, I'm sure, would like to notify the public more than an hour ahead of time of when services began and end, and even 2 or 3 hours prior to. I've seen several signs that have been posted the day before, maybe on a Saturday afternoon to remind of Sunday worships. And so are we limiting their ability to access that information to the public too? So I agree that it needs to be a little bit longer than an hour. I don't know what the happy medium is, but I think that's another group that needs to be represented in this conversation.
Perfect. Any additional comments? Councilmember Manfredi, you look like you have a comment. No? I like to call them out every once in a while. Yes, Councilmember Marsh.
Yeah, I feel that 10 feet separation is a little bit excessive. On a busy corner, you might have 8 or 10 signs. That would take 100 feet. I think maybe 3 feet, 4 feet separation would be quite sufficient for an A-frame or a T-sign.
Councilmember Marsh, thank you. I do want to follow up on that question because I think it's very pertinent. Because when we had the work session, I believe we indicated the distance between signs related to the same business. And so I don't know if that's how you're interpreting it, but that's what we discussed during the working session. And so I'd like to hear what your interpretation of the 10 foot, yes, between signs. Does that per company or per all signs in that specific area?
So it would be per sign. It's a little easier to be able to identify the signs and to see when they're placed, if they're placed either before or after another. That's why we put in the provision of adding the contact information on the back. We would work with, all parties to make sure we do our due diligence to determine that. When it becomes 5, 6, 7 signs together at an intersection, people aren't reading that one sign. They're trying to read all of them rather than concentrate on the roadways. So we did up the limit of signs to have. Staff believes 10 feet is sufficient, but we're certainly willing to take any other recommendations.
Okay, and while you're there, Wes, if you ended up with more than the allotted signs in a specific area, how is code enforcement going to determine who is there first and whose signs gets removed? How will that happen?
For the most part, it's fairly easy. With that contact information on the back of the signs and us being able to contact the individual party and actually talk to them separate, we can get a timeline of when those signs were actually placed. And usually it can be resolved in a simple, hey, can you move your sign over, a few feet this way or a few feet this way? It's usually within a matter of feet. It's really reasonable to be able to work that out.
Yes, city manager.
I think it's important to note that our goal here is not to enforce anything. Our goal is to set forth a compromise solution that can do what the stated objective was, to increase the local vitality of our economics, but also protect against liability and other issues. So I don't know that we're not going to have people out there with stopwatches, timing. We're not going to have people out there with measuring sticks. The truth is, it will probably rarely be an issue, and if it is, it's going to start with a re-education process again. We'll take down the notes. Okay, ABC Real Estate, you've been party to the issue now 8 times, and the others maybe not, and it's more of an education process. But to answer every single question about those things, it's not possible unless we put cameras there, and that's not our goal. It's like speed limits. The speed limit's 35. We expect you to drive 35, and sometimes people don't. But on that rare occasion, they're going to get caught and get a citation, but it's pretty rare. Most in this room probably can't remember the last time they got a speeding citation, me accepted. So our goal here is to find a compromise that works for the broader community, that's self-governing, and not one that we're going to have a watchdog look over their shoulders. And I do think, the question of how many hours before and after, as recommended by Councilmember Wade and Councilmember Learman, needs to be discussed. I personally think if you want to change the 10 to 5 as a starting point at least, and the asterisk issue, that's an easy fix. But again, we're working on a project that we can come back and review again and see, has this helped? Has it hurt? Have we had more car accidents? Have we had this? And review it in a year. So whatever direction council wants to give us, we'd like to incorporate and then bring back for formal adoption at the subsequent meeting.
Excellent. I certainly appreciate those comments because I don't actually see it as a problem either, knowing that the intention is that it works out and people respect what regulations are out there in terms of sign code. So I don't anticipate a problem either. I do agree with talking about the number of hours before and after. I think we can relook at that. Councilmember Gallo, you had some thoughts?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Wes, again, thank you for your work and your team's work on this. With regards to the question that was brought up about illustrations,
yes,
there was discussion in our work session of having a standalone one-page cheat sheet of these ordinances or these codes, and in that to also include some more illustrations that may not be exactly in our coding. Is that still on the table? Are we still looking at that as a possibility?
So we've looked at it, and we're trying to not cross that line of the current case law with actual content of the sign, and that's why we took a little bit of extra to the dimensions of the sign within the table. We can definitely bring back to the discussion and see if we can add some illustrations.
Yeah, I don't think the intent for the illustrations was to depict content, but more of placement, and much like the triangle, the visible triangle that was included in the illustration.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Councilmember Gettle. Anyone else? Yes, Councilmember Wade.
No, I don't want to lose sight of the fact that one of the main concerns during the discussion was the removal of signs and people having to go find them where they're located. I think maybe perhaps if the signs are removed, they should know exactly where it is that they need to go if they were removed by the city. And I think that that was one of the major concerns, is losing their signs.
Absolutely.
And maybe not being agreeing with the reason why, but they would like to be able to have access to their property.
Absolutely. And that's what we were trying to, when we added the contact information to the back of the sign, that's so we can contact, one, hopefully prior to them being removed, but if for some reason it was a safety concern and it had to be removed at that time, that's when we'd be making those immediate calls to notify, to educate, and also to get these signs back to the individual or entity.
But where is the thought process about where the signs would be if they were removed?
So we're currently working on an actual secure location right now to be built, and that's also so they don't come up missing, outside business hours and stuff like that. So we're really trying to create a safe location, and once we get that safe location, we'll have it listed.
If I may, Council, because of the quality of the sign, which most of our people use quality signs, but not the cardboard boxes and all of that, they're going to be very conscious of their signs and retrieve them timely. And our goal, again, is not to be the Gestapo of signs, but if, for instance, if they have an open house on a Sunday that ends at 2 and they're still out on Monday morning, we're going to retrieve them. And the first call will be, hey, we retrieved them, come get them, and don't do it again. The second time, then maybe there's a citation, or a third time. But at the end of the day, we want to make it very clear that while we're willing to store them for them, we're not going to store them until they need them the next time 2 or 3 weeks later. They've got to come get them. We can't provide space for these type of storage. So we have yet to determine where that will be, but depending on the outcome of our the vote tonight, or not the vote tonight, but the direction you give us will be, we certainly will have that. The intent is that we will store them. If their names are not on it, they will be tossed, just to be clear. But if the contact information on there is there, and they will be given a reasonable time to come pick it up, but just like vehicles or anything else, if it stays longer, there may be storage fees. I'm being a little
Yeah, I think I read
facetious, but
5 days.
they may have to bring the staff a pizza or something if
There
they
you
go
go.
too long.
There you go. Yes,
West, we currently store them in the dumpster back here.
not in the
No,
dumpster.
sir.
Not in there, I'm sorry, behind the dumpster. That, sorry, I found a few of my signs
Jump
in that
in,
desert.
find your signs.
Behind the dumpster, there is a camera there that if you were to leave those there and everybody knew that's where they would be, behind the dumpster in a secure area, they can come pick them up at any time.
Our goal would be prefer not to do that, because we don't know who would come pick them up and who would do it. And the next thing you know, well, my sign's not here, and staff, you're accountable because someone else picked it up, or you know how it is at political season, signs disappear. So our goal would be for them to come into an office and retrieve them, and so, but we'll work that out. Our goal is to have none to collect, and if everyone cooperates, we never will.
Good. So, council, what I heard, and tell me if we need to add anything in terms of providing direction, because this is not something we're voting on tonight. I heard that we would like staff to look at the time before and the time after, and then I definitely like the city manager's proposal in starting with 5 feet instead of 10 feet apart from the other signs. Everyone comfortable with that?
The size of the signs.
Not the size of these
Oh,
signs.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's already in there.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyone have any additional thoughts?
Mayor, can we go ahead and get direction on the time as well, rather than us come back and guess? Can you just, as a council, tell us what you want?
Sure.
We've heard 3 and we've heard 1.5.
You don't want to guess somewhere? Yeah.
No.
Okay, so Councilmember Lehrman said 3. I heard 1.5 from Councilmember Wade, And Councilmember Gettle said he didn't know for certain, but maybe somewhere in there. How do the rest of you feel? Start with Councilmember Manfredi. Okay. Vice Mayor?
I was trying to see what the realtors in the background. So I said yes for 1.5 hours, right? Compromise.
Yeah.
I hear 2 from the lady in the front.
Hear
Do I hear
two?
3?
Two. I hear 3. Do I have 3? No.
Day after.
So I'm hearing 2. Is that
Mayor?
what you're? Yes.
Mayor?
Who am I pointing? Yep.
I'm a single mom, and I've done a lot of events on my own. And I understand that people are saying, oh, you have someone who can go pick it up, and that's their job. But sometimes you don't have that. And sometimes you're putting on an event with one person or a very small group of people. And so I don't think it's reasonable for you to expect someone to put a sign out, go set up an event, clean up the event, go get your sign in 1 hour. And I don't think that's in a reasonable amount of time.
I think most of us are willing to change it from 1 hour. The question is what?
3.
So I've heard 2 hours. How do you feel about 2 hours, Councilmember Lehrman? I hear Councilmember Mars is saying 2. How do you feel about it? Yep.
Because, as I said before, the other portions of what's happening have already happened. My vision is you're out putting up your signs. But I'm good with 2.
Okay. Everyone good with 2?
I'm good with 2, but like Rick, the city manager said, let's not take this to 3-4 hours. Does that sound fair?
And if
I'm
we
good
can
with
say that we'll give a grace period to 2, but if you can pick them up sooner, that's
Correct.
fine too. Don't feel like you have to go to dinner and the ball game and then come back, But, so we'll come back with the 2 hours with the 5-foot separation and fix the asterisk issue. And then we'll present that back to you.
One additional thing that you might catch without me helping is that in the table that was referenced 18.115.120.0B, route is missing the E in several places. Sorry about that. I just
Not a problem at all.
catch those weird things, but, okay. So is that enough direction, Wes?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. That'll take us to agenda item 8.2. 8.2 is resolution 23-23, and Wes, I believe you are also providing a presentation.
This will be a presentation on a memorial marker policy. We had a previous discussion on this. The roadside memorial policy, the purpose of this policy is the City of Maricopa memorial marker policy is intended to honor and respect those that have died as a result of a motor vehicle, pedestrian, or bicycle incident while maintaining a clean and safe public right-of-way. In addition, it assists in facilitating the safe return of the memorials to the owner and when it is removed by the city. This policy covers all roadside memorials erected or placed on the public right-of-way within the city. And these guidelines are as follows. Placed in a safe location, not within a site visibility triangle, which we also added an illustration on that. No more than 36 inches in height and 36 inches in width. Maintain in good repair and not cause a blighting condition or safety hazard. If considered blight or safety hazard, city retains right to remove. Must not be displayed more than 45 days from the recognized incident date of the loss of life. After the 45-day period, the city reserves the right to remove. Mark with owner contact information if the mark is to be, so that the marker can be returned. If temporary memorial marker is removed by the city, markers will be stored for 14 days in an effort to return the markers to the owners. And that concludes the short presentation.
Clarification, that last one says if there is no contact information, we'll still keep it for 14 days, and someone was to call us, we'll try to return it.
Perfect. I don't know if your mic is working either, but basically he said if there is no contact information on the memorial, they will allow it to stay for 45 days and then remove it.
No, we'll remove it, but we'll store it and keep it after the 45 days or whatever time frame you agree to. We will remove it and store it, hoping someone will recognize it's not there anymore and call us, and we can try
Okay.
to get it to them, but only for 14 days.
Perfect.
Those that do have the information will contact them immediately.
Perfect. Council members, do I have any questions, comments? Yes, Councilmember Lehrman.
Read this. I was thinking about family and friends of a loved one with a very tragic loss. This would not be a typical type of death. This would be a very tragic incident. And I think 45 days is not an honorable amount of time. I would like to propose a year, that sign would be able to remain there for a year to honor the life of that person that was lost in such a tragic way.
Thank you, Councilmember Lehrman. Additional thoughts? Okay, I'll go right ahead, Vice Mayor.
I guess just on a public safety side is something that I'm concerned about. Time frame is different than a public safety side. You know, if some of these are off to the side, like I see over here by the train tracks, and it's dark out, somebody pulls off the road with a flat tire, they don't see it, they smash into it. It's a public safety situation that I'm mostly concerned with, and time-wise, I guess we could discuss, but the thing I'm worried about is on the public safety side of where these are.
Ed?
Yeah, I concur with Councilmember Lehrman's thoughts of the 45 days being a little bit short. It'd be good for us to revisit that amount of time.
Good? Anyone?
I do agree with Councilmember Lehrman. 45 days is a little bit short. At least 90 days, maybe 6 months, maybe a year. But if it's a year, it's got to be maintained. It can't get crummy over the bad weather and so forth.
I think everybody brought up some really good ideas and concerns. With me, I guess a year would be good, but I think, there we go. I think a year will be fine as long as we know who put it there and it's well maintained. So maybe they report to the city they have it there so that the city can, if there's something wrong with it, they can be contacted and said, come fix it. Falls over, the plastic flowers start falling apart, and when that happens, it's respectful to the person who passed to fix it, right? So I think as long as we know who has it there, I'm fine with leaving them for a year. I don't think they should be affixed to public property. I think that's in there, but it should be if it's not. I don't want to see a pole decorated. They should be outside the right of way, not on public property, which is already addressed. And then, so I'm okay with a year. But if they don't have stuff on them, 45 days is fine, because they'll notice it's missing, and then we can explain what's happening, that they have to put their name on it, and they can put it back for the year. So maybe something like that. I'm glad that we got out of the memorial making business, which we were going to be in, so that's a good thing. 3 by 3 is way too big. I think 2 foot by 2 foot, 24 by 24 is fine. I think 3 by 3 is a huge monument, that we shouldn't have it that big. Other than that, that's me.
Very good.
At that point where ditto seems to be the appropriate response, but it's not clear. But yeah, I think between 6 months and a year, I think is sufficient time that would be available to memorialize the person honorably and respectfully. I'm assuming, and I'm
hope I'm correct in that when we have memorials on private property, is there any way that we can include those in, I think that's right. So I would just be hopeful that somebody that's on private property doesn't try to go 5 by 5, you know, with the display. But I think between 6 months and a year, I think is adequate.
I could go anywhere from 6 months to a year. And then I heard the size, which I also agree with Councilmember Manfredi, 36 by 36 is just very significant. When you actually measure it out, it's very significant. So 24 by 24 makes sense to me. And basically, I think the proposal was putting contact information and name onto the memorial so that the city can contact them if necessary. So any concerns with those 3 elements? Yes,
Mayor,
Vice Mayor.
it would only be the ones that are currently there. How would we handle the ones that are currently there that most likely don't have anything?
Same.
Whatever the year, you know, all of a sudden they're gone and these people don't know about this. That's one thing I'm worried about.
Well, most of them you can tell are not being maintained. Those that we have some history of through our accident reporting and others, we'll try to reach out, but they're not there, they're not there, and we'll, you know, hopefully the press and the public will pick up on this action and hear it, but I'm sure something will come up, but we can't write a separate rule to allow those in perpetuity. I do have a quick question, if I could, Council, for clarification. If you go 6 months to a year, I would suggest, tell me what that is, 6 months or 9 or a year.
I was going to ask them to do that, yeah.
But the question came up if they're maintained. Now, the definition of maintained is sometimes in the eyes of the beholder. I think if the staff feels they're not being maintained, that if the contact information is there, we will call them and give them a short period of time to fix it. And if they don't, we have the right to go ahead and pull it down. So if you're looking at 6 months or a year in 2x2 space, if you would just add that consideration in your thought process as you may give us direction tonight.
For maintenance?
No.
So, city manager or Wes, either one, if there were lights placed on these that impacted the ability to safely drive, do you feel like that's accounted for in the way we've written the code?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay.
Can you go back to the rule?
Absolutely.
No lights.
Did it say no lights?
So during these guidelines right here,
Safety.
C.
You're putting it under safety, I see that now.
Yeah.
Okay,
Absolutely, Ms.
perfect, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. Okay, so I need a motion. Who would like to make the motion?
Mayor,
Oh, one more?
can I interrupt a sec before we make a motion?
Yes.
I think Vice Mayor Vitiello, one of his questions was, what happens to the ones that are up there already?
Oh, good question.
And I think they would all fall under the current, whatever we put in place now, they would fall under. So if they're not numbers and phone numbers, I think we should have 2 tiers, right? One that is, if they have contact information, they can stay for whatever we decide, and I think it's gonna be a year over there, right? She's gonna not motion for. So if they have the contact information, you leave it for a year. If they don't have contact information, 45 days, which means that anything currently up without contact information would have 45 days to rectify it, and then they would have a year after that.
Yeah, and when this goes into effect, we would want to publicize that. Gwen, I know you know that,
Right.
communicate that, so that everyone is aware that this is happening. All right, anything further before I take Councilmember Learman's motion? All right, Councilmember Learman?
Mayor, I'd like to motion Resolution 23-23 that we adopt the roadside memorials with a 1-year term and the 24 by 24 size. Did I miss anything?
Well, one thing, on the one-year term, would you amend your motion to say 1 year if they have contact information?
Yes, Mayor.
45 days if they don't have contact
Absolutely.
information? Okay, and then the
And-
24 by 24, and then
just add the maintenance.
add the maintenance?
Yes, thank
Okay,
you.
Perfect.
I think we understand.
Do I have a second by Councilmember Wade? Any additional questions, comments?
The only comment I really have is, what do we do about the ones that are like the bicycle?
40, oh, it's no good.
We would have to take that down?
Through our public awareness process, which we can't guarantee people will hear it, they will fall into, if there's no labeling, they'll have the 45 days, and then if it goes away, we will store it for the 14 days, and hopefully someone will contact us. If there is any markings out there, or if we have the ability to go back to police records from an incident that may have occurred based on a location, we'll do our best, but we can't guarantee that we'll be able to reach everyone. But if they have a bicycle and we store it, and people who are paying attention to it will notice it. People who are not maintaining it probably won't. So I think we have a pretty safe bet that those who are paying attention and maintaining them will be well aware of it and have an opportunity to approach us.
If I can jump in, the bicycle is well maintained. It's painted every year, I think it is. And I totally forget who it was, and I apologize for them. But I remember Lyle actually called me on that one, and he was looking for information because they had to move it. And I think it got moved a couple feet before right away of something. So they are, they're gonna know. So, but the problem is, of course, it falls outside the 24 by 24, so that one would have to be removed after the 45 days probably anyway.
Well, I'll double check, but I'm quite sure that one's actually not on city right of way anymore. If
All
it's
right, so
private
I-
property, that's up to the private property owner.
All right, so I have a motion and a second. Any additional questions, comments? None. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Thank you very much,
Thank
Wes.
you, Mayor.
That'll take us to item 8.3. 8.3 is a presentation 2306. And who do we have coming forward? Quinn. Very good. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Vice Mayor and council members. My name is Quinn Knold. I'm the Communications and Cultural Services Director for the city. What I thought was a short presentation, but Wes sets the bar pretty high on brevity, so I'll try to parse through this quickly. But at the request of council and some questions from the community, we look to establish a little bit of framework and some common vocabulary for the method that the city has at its disposal for notifying the public in the event of emergencies. Basically what it boils down to is that the city relies on a county system, has traditionally and continues to do so. The county does have a new system, a Genesis is what it's called, Genesis Emergency Notification System, which basically gives us the ability to send two different kinds of alerts. One is called an IPAWS alert, the Integrated Public Alert and Warning System. These are events that, if I'm categorizing them, present a clear and immediate danger to the public. And really at that level, once it rises to that level, the county takes it out of our hands, and they have the ability to notify people via emailed push alerts, which are those notifications you get on your phone. And the key thing to point out here, the difference between a local notification that we can control and when the county does it, is their ability to notify outside of people who have subscribed for that service. So with us locally, the people who subscribe, and we periodically can let people know that there's a system out there, much like we do with our newsletters, letting people know they can sign up for that, let them know they can sign up for these notifications. That's the extent of our ability to notify them. Of course, we have our social media channels as well, which we utilize, but if we want to send a notice to our community locally, our ability is to notify people in a geographic area or within the city as long as they've subscribed. Although with the county system, with IPAWS, they have the ability to override that and send it to people who have not subscribed, who still have cell phones in that area. So that's the kind of key difference. And what I'm kind of focusing on tonight is a little bit of the local control and some of our procedures for how we go about making that determination of whether we're sending alerts that way. This infograph kind of depicts some of the thought process that goes into that. You have the event or incident. Again, if it's something that presents that immediate threat, the evacuate now, the shelter in place, an abduction, which may include an Amber Alert, these types of incidents are going to trigger that IPAWS level alert, and they can have the ability to notify more broadly. There are events which don't present that immediate threat. Some of the examples: unscheduled road closures, police activity, fires or other high visibility incidents, again, that's not presenting an immediate danger, but that perhaps a lot of the community is seeing smoke and maybe wondering what that is, that we can have the ability to send some notifications. And what you see listed below are some of the criteria that we use to make the determination of whether we're just using our social media channels or we're sending those alerts and emails. And that includes, does the severity of warrant a mass notification? Part of that is also includes the duration. If we anticipate that the incident's going to be over in a couple of minutes, we take that into consideration versus whether we know it's going to go on for an undetermined amount of time or will last a long time. So I make those determinations. Is it day or night? Is another factor that comes into play. If it's the middle of the night, do we need to let people know right now? Again, if it's that case, it's probably going to be an IPAWS alert. So do we have the ability to wait a few more hours of people waking up? We can let them know on social media right away and let media partners know as well, and wait till an hour when it makes sense, when people are waking up to see that. And does the alert need to go to a specific area is another part of our determination. Just walking you through some of those criteria, the purpose and the criteria for sending alerts we've covered. The methods of the communication, again, we have our examples of those channels include push alerts, text messages, emails, and phone calls. Now, with our local control, again, users must subscribe. This, what you're seeing here, is pretty much what our communications team would have in hand as they're looking to make their determination. The content of those alerts, our mass notification alerts, should provide clear and concise information about the incident, including the nature and location of the incident, any instructions or precautions that community members should take, and any updates and changes, and specifically want to point out the resolution of the situation. I know that's something that our community members had asked for, that we look to make sure that if we're sending out alerts, once the incident has resolved, that we're able to share that update with them in a timely manner. The frequency of the alerts, we certainly try to be conscientious about that. They should be sent only when necessary. It should not be used for routine communications or non-emergency situations. However, community members should be reminded to sign up for local alerts and keep their contact information up to date. We're looking to provide this information in a timely manner as soon as possible after the incident. And the management of the alerts, the local alerts, again, is the responsibility of the city's communications team. We work in concert with our emergency responders to make sure that we are sharing the correct information. And the members of our team are looking to be trained to use the alert system and have access to all necessary communication channels. The public safety department retains responsibility for originating alerts that arise to the level of the IPAWS public safety. Again, if that makes sense. So our police dispatchers are the ones who contact the county and let them know if we have an incident that rises to the level of an IPAWS. You may actually see incidents where both occur. While we're waiting for the county to send their alert, we're sending our local alert, which again would go to the people who have subscribed, and if it rises to the level of the county, they have the option to raise it to a level where they can send it to others in the area as well. That's the extent of my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Very much, Quinn. Council members, any questions, concerns? We're here to provide direction. If you like it, we're good. If you have questions, concerns, that's what we need. Councilmember.
How would people receive the alert? Would it be through email, text?
Yeah, so we'll have a variety of options. So we'll look to explore all that are necessary, but yes, push alerts on your phone is an option for us, email alerts, our social media channels, and even up to and including phone calls, but again, once they've subscribed.
And would you be able to choose the way that you receive the message?
Here, we would make the determination, but as people are signing up, and as we look at the system, that's exactly what we will be exploring, is how people will need to choose
Okay.
their notifications.
Thank you.
So if I just want text, I can get just text.
That's a better question once we get to a chance to look at the system and really explore it, but that's
Gotcha.
one of our questions as well, if they're going to need to opt in specifically for those, but it's our
Perfect.
understanding that we will have those options available
Perfect,
to them.
thank you. Other questions? Yes, Councilmember Ghetto.
Madam Mayor, if I may, thank you. Quinn, thank you for your work in this area. Public safety is paramount to our public, and being able to effectively communicate those incidences are extremely important to us. So thank you, first of all. Secondly, my question is more of, is there a possibility of a two-way communication? A lot of this has been presented as being pushed down into the public. Is there a way for public to report incidences forward? Maybe through I know the police department's developed a little bit of an app where they can report, non-emergency incidences they've seen, maybe tagging, graffiti, those kinds of things. Is this system designed to take in input, or is it only for city level down?
I know we do have tools that already exist, as you're mentioning, for non-emergency events, for graffiti, those types of things, for reporting those types of things around town that exist that are apart from this. I don't know specifically if this system will have that same capabilities, but as we're moving forward and exploring it, we'll certainly take a look at that if there's an option for them to give feedback on that as well.
Thank you. If you look into that, that'd be wonderful.
Councilmember Ghetto, when I first heard about this alert system, I asked a similar question, and there is a tool, I don't remember if it's called Report a Problem, or if that's what I tagged it as, Report a Problem, that has been in existence for a while, and I knew it at one time but forgot because not very many people use it. I think a good communication on that would be great, because you can spot something in the road that's hazardous and either take a picture of it or notify the city your location, and it'll send that back to the city, and you can ask for a response that it's been fixed or not. You have that choice, but I think a good communication on that would be great, that it does exist, yeah.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, Madam Mayor, that's a feature that does exist. In fact, if you look at the top of our website, it's one of the links of
Yeah.
Report a Problem.
Yeah, I've ignored it forever, so now I
It's
just have
up
to
there.
help spread the word. Yeah. Any additional questions or comments? Yes, City Manager Horst.
Just one clarification I think needs to be made. Whereas we would be a partner in pushing out information, if it's a utilities-related water break, electric outage, those type of things, it's the utilities' responsibility to push out those notifications. We don't want to accept the responsibility of their operations. However, once we receive that, at their request, we will then send out through our media and other sources that additional information. But the city is not primary for those utility notifications. We're just a supplement to them. And there are a lot of our citizens who think we're responsible for everything, and we're not. And so the utility companies have that responsibility initially. We will certainly assist with the dissemination of that information, but the information has to come from them. People just call us all the time, well, when is it going to be fixed? What's that going to be done? And we need to refer them to the utility companies because it's their responsibility, and frankly, we don't know. We may find out, but we don't know initially. So.
Good clarification. All right, so I'm not hearing any change in direction. I'm sorry, Councilmember Manfredi. Sorry, I didn't see your hand.
What do we do now? So if there's a fire and we need to tell everybody to stay in their room or whatever, or stay in their house, what are we doing currently as a city?
Well, we've been utilizing the iPause system already with a previous system with Everbridge. So you've seen some of these alerts before with shelter in place or with missing persons. We're already utilizing all of our social media channels and looking to communicate clearly with our media partners as they have requests. So all of those channels, and we're looking to create more of a framework for how we're going to create local mass notifications. So when we're talking about push alerts, utilizing that fully is our goal with this.
Do we currently have any push alerts?
So the
except iPause, city.
So it's my understanding that under the previous system, there was that capability, but it wasn't one that we had been utilizing.
Okay.
So this is a new exploration for us on this tool.
So if we put this in place, everyone in the city has to sign up for it. If they want alerts, they have to sign up for it. And then we have the ability to send alerts to them outside of the iPause system, which already does the alerts, right, if we needed it. So if there's a crane derailment, right, iPause would send it out.
Yes.
And they would send it out to everybody in the city of Maricopa without signing up.
Correct.
Correct.
So if we were actually pushing alerts, we won't reach everybody unless 100% sign up.
Correct.
But if we use the iPod system, 100% would receive it because it would go out on their cell phone.
Correct,
At
but
a geographic circle, city of Maricopa, everybody knows.
Correct, and yes, you're correct, and the difference is that that only certain things rise to the level of an iPause. So
Right.
that if there's not that immediate danger, they wouldn't send out that notification. We'd still have the ability to say it's important enough to us that we have information to share and have that option.
So then the question then is, so I'm trying to think, what rises to the level for us that doesn't rise to the level for iPause?
I think there's a lot of different situations. Water main breaks.
What was that?
Water main breaks is
Oh,
a
okay.
specific example, and as the city manager mentioned, is an
Road
example
closures.
where
Road
yeah,
closures.
road closures, police incidents that are not a crash, something like that involves a road closure where there's not immediate danger, but we know there's going to be that impact to city services, and we want to share that information.
All right. And it's only it's voluntary, so if you don't sign up, you get nothing from it, right?
Correct.
Okay. So and what I meant by that is not that you don't get anything from it, that you don't get bothered. If you don't want it in your, on your phone all the time, you don't have to get it. So if we vote today and say, let's do this, when can people start signing up?
I don't know yet when they'll be able to. One of the questions that we have that we've been assured is moving from system to system. Under the previous system, if we'll be able to have everybody that was already signed up there move, or whether we'll have to start from zero, is our understanding that they will be able to move. But as we move forward, that'll be one of our first questions.
And you may move from the system we currently have, or used to have.
Yes, and the county has already moved from their system.
Council, just for a little clarification, we really don't have a choice to approve it or not. We choose to have a system or no system because we have to piggyback through the county system. So we have to do that. The purpose of this presentation was to try to give some definition to what mass alerts are, which basically anything with people at risk that would happen. We had people calling us about the smoke, and the smoke is actually 20 miles outside the city limits, and that's a curiosity question. So we might send something out that, if we know the answer, for that purpose. But in Frank, if we don't work with the county, we have no mass notification system.
So today, what we're approving is working with, well, there's action.
it's approval.
There's action, right? So what we're talking
No, the
about.
action-
No, this is not, it's
This is
direction.
a presentation only.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So what we're talking about is either we're gonna go forward with the county and this, or
No.
just this?
No, they're combined.
Okay.
This system
it's
allows
both.
both of these.
Okay, so the county will send out to everyone. We're not choosing either or.
Correct. And to be clear, our chief or others can contact the county and request these notifications. It's not solely up to them sitting there, and they will do that. It could be isolated to an individual neighborhood or a broader area of the community. All that will be determined by our incident commanders working with the county emergency management personnel. So those will go out to anyone and everyone. The rest of it will be self-determined based on isolated conditions which are not at-risk situations.
All right, and that was the last question I was gonna ask, actually, was if I live in Maricopa Meadows, this system, the new one that we, right, can put out, not iPause, we can target that geographic area, or do we have to do the whole city? We can target?
It's my understanding that yes, you can geofence an area and target a specific area.
Perfect. All right, thanks.
All right. Any additional questions, comments? I believe we're still setting at no direction change. Correct? All right, let's move on to the next item. Thank you, Quinn. This is agenda item 8.4, resolution 23-22, and our person presenting is Matt.
Mayor Smith and members of council, thank you for your time. My name is Matt Kozlowski. I'm the Deputy City Manager and Chief Financial Officer, and just going to take a couple of minutes to talk about Resolution 23-22, which is the General Obligation Refunding Bonds. Okay, what this means, no reason for fancy legal language to start this off. To put it quite simply, this is a refinancing of the general obligation bonds issued in 2013 that will save the citizens of City of Maricopa money. End of story. We will get to what that means a little further in a second. This resolution is approving the form and authorizing the execution and delivery of the necessary agreements and documents related to the sale and issuance of these refunding funds. Delegates the authority to the mayor, city manager, and deputy city manager CFO to determine, adopt, execute anything in terms of matters, terms, policies, procedures, compliance, and actions necessary to complete the transaction. So, now some fancy language real quick that I'll race through. But why do we do things like this? Some helpful language from the Government Finance Officers Association, but bond refinancings or refundings are used to save debt service savings on outstanding bonds. The reason that it's typically happening in a 10-year period is municipal bonds are issued with an optional redemption date or a call date approximately 10 years from the date of issuance of bonds. So this optional redemption provision allows government issuers to refinance the outstanding bonds with refunding bonds. So when that call date approaches, we have the option of proceeding with these actions if it is deemed appropriate and useful for the city. So, preliminary estimates of what this means. As of April 13th, our financial advisors on this transaction with Lewis, Young, Robertson, and Birmingham have estimated that the projected savings for Maricopa citizens will likely be somewhere in the range of $1.2 million to $2.3 million via annual tax rate reductions that will result from this transaction. And to put it even more clearly, what this really means is that this is not some sort of refunding that puts additional funds into the general fund. These are savings directly to the citizens and residents of Maricopa taxpayers. That's end of story. So it is important to note that these projections are preliminary and can change at any time prior to the transaction closing because it is dependent upon multiple market factors, interest rates, rating agency reviews. So these projected savings could decrease or increase. If market factors arise that could make the transaction not beneficial to the city in any way, we are not required to move forward. We can hit the pause button and come back to the market when it is beneficial to the city at a later date. Real quick, the projected calendar. This is something that became available as an option in late March, and quite frankly, the municipal bond market is advantageous right now, so we have put together with our partners a relatively aggressive timeline, trying to get to market and have these redeemed by July 1st. If everything is amenable and agreeable with council tonight, the next step will be a call with the ratings agencies on April 20th, which will be this Thursday. So we are diligently preparing our presentations and information to show them all the great things that are happening here in the city of Maricopa. And this aggressive timeline, we should be proud of what our staff and what our vendors and partners are doing to make sure we get to market this quickly. So I thank them from the bottom of my heart for all the work they're putting into getting this done. Speaking of those vendors and partners, I actually get the chance to introduce you to a couple of them real quick. And then I'm actually going to turn a few minutes of my time over to one of them. The first one that is in the crowd with us tonight is Zach Sakis. He is our bond counsel attorney with Greenberg Traurig. Zach, if you'd like to step up and just say hello real quick. It can't be overstated how talented and intelligent Zach is and what he brings to this transaction and how helpful his council is and their council is during this process. So, Zach, we thank you very much for everything you're doing for us. The second one is actually a partner with our financial advisor, Laura Lewis. And Laura has actually offered to come up and say a few things about the transaction and about her interactions with the city of Maricopa. So, Laura, if you wouldn't mind stepping up, I'm going to give you the chance to say hello.
Mayor, Council, it's very nice to be with you this evening. Again, I'm Laura Lewis. I'm the Lewis of a long line of name, Lewis, Young, Robertson, Birmingham. We sound like attorneys. We're working to shorten that. Hopefully later this year we'll have a little bit shorter name. But I have been in the business of municipal finance for 34 years. Whew. I say that and I feel old. I do a lot of rating presentations with a lot of cities around the West. And even with your city, I'll talk about like the median age being 30. I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel so old. But I come with a great deal of experience. I love what I do. I have a real passion for the cities that I serve, and I look out for them like a mother bear. I have a few people that can give you some circumstances where that mother bear really shined forth. It might be of interest to you to know that we've been watching this transaction for potential refunding for something like 4 years. There was a point in time in the municipal finance world where we could do what's called an advance refunding, meaning that in advance of the call date, we could you could borrow another issue. That issue funded an escrow to pay off the old bonds, and we could take advantage of those savings whenever rates were low. Then the federal government went, oh, we need more money. And so we're not going to let you do advance refundings. We used to be able to do it any time. Again, I'm really old, right? We could do it any time. Then they limited it. We could do it one time. And then they took that away several years ago. So if we were to have done this refunding earlier, we would have had to issue your new bonds on a taxable basis. So we weighed with your staff, we had several meetings saying, well, if we did it now versus what we think we'll do if we wait, right, and can do it tax exempt. And we watched it every quarter, communicated with Matt, and he communicated with Rick. We watched it every quarter. And finally, yay, the day is here that we can take advantage of it on a tax exempt basis. It was prudent to wait. And the markets do move, as Matt indicated. As I was sitting in the audience, I flew in today and the plane was late, so I hadn't had a chance to look at anything. Municipal interest rates went up about 18 basis points. That's just slightly under 0.25% in one day, right? And that's pretty volatile for our market. Generally, it moves a little bit, basis point here or there, and wham, 18 basis points in one day. So of course we watch that and make sure that you're still going to get the value out of this refunding, because as Matt said, by taking action tonight, you're under no obligation, and my job is to serve you as your fiduciary. So I will, weigh with your city officials about whether, today's the right day when we finally get the rating. We expect to have that in a couple of weeks. So back to I've worked with a lot of cities. I hope you know it, but you have a phenomenal staff. I rarely work with people that are so responsive to get information to us for the rating presentation and that pay so much attention to it. Your metrics as a city are, again, phenomenal. You are currently AAA rated by Fitch for your GO bonds and AA by Moody's and S&P. And for a fairly new city of your size, that is no small feat. I would encourage you all to read the rating. They'll come out with like a rating letter, and it basically is one page that says your rating is whatever it is, right? And some legal jargon. Each of those rating agencies will also produce a rating report. And I would encourage you to take the time. They're 3-ish, 4-ish pages long. But when they come out, because it will say great things that you probably already know, right? but you know that you're getting it from an independent look. I mean, I'm one independent set of eyes, But Standard & Poor's and Fitch and Moody's are additional independent sets of eyes that will say things about your, strong management and your, how well managed you are fiscally. And I mean, it's a good thing. It will also, mention things like, what are some of the things that could make your rating go up? What are some of the things that could make your rating go down in a very, general way? Sometimes those things are out of your control. I mean, I have a couple of cities I work with in Utah that get dinged all the time for the median income in their city. Well, it's not like the mayor can wave her wand and go, hoo-hoo, I would like the median income to be higher here, right? So there are some things that are within your control that you should be, attentive to, and some things that are not. But I've really appreciated working with, Rick, Matt, Brenda, and Jenny. As Matt indicated, the legal counsel has been great, and you have a great team here, and I'm very pleased to be a part of it. If you have any questions about the transaction, I'm happy to answer it. The recent increase in rates that I was, looking on my laptop, when we last ran the numbers about a week ago, we kind of hit the peak of what I thought the savings would be, about $2.3 million in net present value terms. That roughly 18 basis point in interest rate, whack that down by $250,000. I mean, and again, I can't control that any more than you can control what your citizens make. But we watch that and make sure that we, get into the market on the best day that we can. So I'm here for any questions.
Council, any questions or comments? Yes, Councilmember Marsh.
I'm just amazed that you people were able to save us more than $1 million in an era where interest rates are skyrocketing. Thank you very much for your hard work and your knowledge, your expertise on this.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Councilmember Marsh. Any other comments, questions? Perfect. Thank you, Matt, for that presentation, and Laura for adding to that. So, do I have, oh, yes.
I just wanted to make a motion, but I wanted to make a motion right when Matt started talking anyway, so, yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
As soon as he said save money, you were.
Yeah, when I hear save money, I'm like, motion.
Okay, I'll take your motion.
Yeah.
Seconded by Councilmember Lehrman. Any additional questions, comments? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Anyone opposed? Great, that motion passes, and that brings us to the end of the agenda. This meeting is adjourned.